is for Jeff Davis." He smashed the hoe into the rich soil beneath his feet, causing the ground to splatter in all directions. "And this is for Hiram Anderson." He laid the tool to earth once more with a tremendous concussion. Committed to his task, he looked toward his father working the row next to him. He was leaning on his hoe in a statue-like pose with his forehead resting on the back of his hands. "Father?" George froze. His brain tried to comprehend the event. "Father!" Then his father collapsed in a heap upon the dark Missouri soil. In a second, George was on his knees next to his father's limp body. He lifted his father's head and stared into his eyes. "Father, what is it? What's wrong?" "George." He strained at his father's almost inaudible whisper. "What?" An ashen color had formed on his father's lips. "Your chance, son." "I don't understand." George felt the wetness of tears running down his cheeks. "The army. Run to the army. Be free, son." His father's mouth began to open and close in a strange rhythm. After an endless time, his muscles surrendered, and his mouth didn't open again. Under the hot Missouri sun, his father's eyes rolled slowly toward the sky. He grabbed the lifeless figure and began rocking him back and forth, his father's head pushed into his chest. George felt a cooling shade cross his back. Strange, he thought. There wasn't a cloud in the sky this morning. He felt the sensation of his body being lifted, separating him from his father. He tried to resist, but all of his energy was gone. He felt helpless as his shoulders drooped downward. Then he was back in the world. He sensed the hands from other slaves trying to comfort him, holding his shoulders, rubbing his arms, moving him away from the field. Several women knelt next to his father's body. They were swaying back and forth, singing aloud an African death chant. He violently pulled his arms from the Samaritans moving him toward the slave quarters. "My mother!" he cried. "I've got to see my mother!" He composed himself by wiping the tears from his face. He would approach his mother as a man. He would bury his father this day. Then he would find the Union Army. He would be free. Chapter 1. Palmito Ranch, Texas, 1865. Free Anderson tasted the strange mixture of dust, acrid smoke, and sweat running from his brow and settling on his lips. A heavy layer of dirty white powder floated head-high around his regiment, making all who walked through it take on an eerie, ghost-like complexion. The source of the fume was a barrage of artillery rounds bombarding retreating Union regiments. Free prodded his men, members of the 62nd United States Colored Infantry 1st Regiment, to quick-time their retreat, but to no avail. Each of his soldiers, involved in skirmishes for almost 24 hours straight, walked as if mired knee-deep in mud. The rebels had moved their artillery up in line, and Free heard the shouts and hoorays of the Confederate cavalry carrying across the plain. The land against which the 62nd retreated was no more than a scrub prairie of marsh plants and palmetto trees, and offered little in the way of cover. Free was not a stranger to battle, but he could never get accustomed to the sounds and smells of war. The continual bombardment, deafening in its effect, allowed confusion to slip into a man's mind. He had witnessed many a brave soldier, disoriented by wave after wave of combat, wandering through a battlefield, oblivious of the consequences. The dread of dying wreaked havoc on the human body. It forced the stench of fear out of a man's every pore, leaving the battlefield reeking with the bitter smell of sweat, blood, and piss. It seemed straightforward that Colonel Barrett was scooped into this fight, and now the exhausted men of his company might pay the price of it. The colonel had ridden to the back of the line only once to order Captain Johansson and 46 men of the 34th Indiana